Good evening, folks, and welcome to the Horror Corner. I'm your host, Sean Patrick Urshan, and this week we are doing another Top 20 for 2020, which is a series that was created by Horrific Nightmares JM and the Horror Man. Now, previously we did 70's horror, but now we're getting more specific with 70's slasher movies. Probably the most prominent decade for slashers has to be the 80s, but there was certainly some really classic slashers done in the 70s as well. So in at number 20, I have as part of this horror collection here, and that is Driller Killer from 1979. Next one is Don't Go in the House. There were a lot of movies like that in the 70s and early 80s. Don't go in the house, don't go in the basement, don't go in the woods. Next one is going to be another one I have as part of this collection here, and that is Silent Night, Bloody Night, which I kind of got turned on to by the Horror Man, the expert on slashers. And another one that I saw because of Joe the Horror Man is the next one on this list, and that is Massacre at Central High, which unfortunately I don't have a copy of, and I don't even know if that's been released on DVD or Blu-ray yet. I saw it on YouTube. Next up is The Town That Dreaded Sundown, which was actually a true story about a real-life serial killer that wore the overalls and the burlap sack mask, just like Jason in Friday the 13th Part 2 or Dark Night of the Scarecrow, except this was real life. Next up is going to be The Toolbox Murders. Another one, unfortunately, I don't have a copy of. I definitely need to get my hands on that one. That is definitely a classic 70s slasher. Much of the action and kills take place early on in the movie, and then it kind of quiets down until the final act. But man, there's some brutal kills at the beginning. There's definitely some sleaze in there, too. Part of the video nasty list. Next one is another one I wish I had a copy of, but I'm working on it, guys. And that is I Spit on Your Grave from 1978, which was a rape revenge horror film. But it's the revenge part where the slasher aspect comes in. It definitely becomes a full-blown slasher movie during the revenge part of the film. Next up is one I do have a copy of, which I picked up recently, and that is Tourist Trap from 1979. Awesome movie that traumatized me as a kid with this creepy-ass mannequins. Chuck Connors is in this film. He's just awesome. As well as the beautiful Tanya Roberts from Charlie's Angels and The Beastmaster and all kinds of movies. I had a huge crush on her as a kid. And she looks great in this movie. Next up is When a Stranger Calls. This is one I just picked up recently as well, too. Really nice slipcover there. I love that VHS style there. Really cool. I'm pretty sure that's the exact VHS, the way the box looked. Definitely a classic slasher with that classic theme of, the killer making the creepy-ass phone calls, and then they trace the calls, and the calls are coming from inside the house. Which was a concept introduced by Black Christmas in 1974. Next up is one you probably wouldn't expect to be on the list, and that is Dr. Jekyll and Sister Hyde, yes, from Hammer Films. There's certainly a lot more to that than it being a slasher movie, but it definitely has heavy-duty slasher elements. And yeah, Dr. Jekyll is basically Jack the Ripper in a way. He's picking off young prostitutes one by one in the late hours of the night in the pitch black streets of England. And the murders are pretty damn bloody, and once he turns into Sister Hyde then takes up the mantle and continues the killing. There's one scene in there that's like straight out of Friday the 13th. She plunges the knife right through the back of the girl's neck, and it comes out the front, and the blood's just pouring all over the woman's boobs. Next up is The Last House on the Left, a classic from Wes Craven from 1972. Yeah, I would definitely consider this one a slasher. Very gritty, very raw, very realistic, and very disturbing. Next up is a film from Herschel Gordon Lewis called The Gore Girls. Yeah, it was one of his later entries in his career before he retired for a while. And yeah, really nasty one with a brutal killer that smashes women's skulls to pieces. Yeah, of course it's definitely a gore film, but I think it's a slasher too. Next up is Dario Argento's classic The Bird with the Crystal Plumage. Yeah, it is definitely a giallo, and there's a couple giallos on this list, but I feel they fit into the slasher territory as well. Next up, number 7 is another Italian slasher movie, and that is A Bay of Blood from Mario Bava. Very, very influential on the 80s slasher genre, big time, especially the Friday the 13th franchise, specifically. I don't think there would be Friday the 13th without this movie. Next up is going to be Suspiria by the legendary Dario Argento once again. Classic. Yeah, definitely more of a supernatural slasher movie, but yeah, there's some brutal kills in this movie, and especially the opening kill, which was a knife kill, and you see the girl literally get stabbed in the heart. You see the heart, and then you see the knife going into the heart. It's so brutal. Nasty. But yeah, definitely the most awesome movie in Dario Argento's career as far as the visuals go. Very psychedelic with the bright colors. It's just awesome. Next up we have Alice, Sweet Alice, which is quickly becoming one of my favorite slasher movies of all time. I love the atmosphere in this movie. It's unbelievable. I love the direction of the film. I love the characters, even Brooke Shields, who made her debut in the film. Just great direction by Alfred Soli. It's really creepy. I love the outfit that the killer wears. It's so creepy. Great movie. And then we have another Dario Argento masterpiece, and that is Deep Red. Probably, to me, the greatest giallo film of all time. It just gets every aspect of the giallo just perfectly, and I love it. Very brutal, over-the-top murders, very elaborate. And yeah, once again, the visuals in this movie, it's got that 70s psychedelic feel for sure. With a brilliant score there by Goblin. Next up is definitely one of the most influential slasher movies of all time, and that is Black Christmas from 1974. What fantastic atmosphere, and you got a great cast with Olivia Hussey and Margot Kidder, and of course the late great John Saxon, rest in peace. Yeah. I love the killer, how he remains a complete mystery the entire time. Even at the end, we never get to know who the hell this guy is. But we do know who Leatherface is from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre in that number 2, also from 1974. You know, the exploits of Ed Gein are who Leatherface's character is loosely based on. And, of course, you got the entire family of lunatics, brilliantly directed by the late, great Tobe Hooper. Such an incredible movie. It's so scary. The atmosphere is just off the charts. It's incredible. And come on, I mean, is there any doubt whatsoever what number 1 is going to be? Of course, it's going to be Halloween from 1978, directed by John Carpenter. This movie is just the stuff of legend. I love everything about this film. I love the score. I love the visuals. I love the direction style. I love the cinematography. It's just incredible. I love the characters. Every character in this movie I love, you know. Laurie, Dr. Loomis, Sheriff Brackett, Annie, Linda, everybody. Just an awesome, awesome movie, and I never get tired of it. Like, almost every scene is just iconic. Alright guys, that's it for the top 20 of 2020 70s slasher movies. Thank you for joining me, Sean Patrick Urshan, in the Horror Corner. Tune in and stay scared.